welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live. We've got an amazing episode lined up for you. I am excited to talk to you today.
Oh, that is so good. By the way, everyone, we're at a loss. We are at a loss for words, people.
I am. All right, everyone. I've got to do it because that was in there twice. Welcome to season 2, episode 81. It's 7 trends that'll define telecommunications in 2025. I actually should put just communications in 2025 because there's so much going on in our industry, and it's kind of exciting. I feel like we're at the forefront of a lot of this stuff going on. So anyway, we're back in the saddle. Brandon, Bailey, how's it going?
Oh, great. It's good.
Yeah, and I actually I'm wishing everyone a happy new year, but I got told by a colleague today that that's actually bad luck now that it's January's half over. So I guess
you're too late.
But this is our first official episode of 2025, and I still have to go back to that intro because just so our listeners know, that was Rick, you and I. Well, I don't know about you, Rick. It was my first time seeing that intro, so that's why the episode started with our jaws on the table. We're like, that was really good.
Bailey, our producer, kept it from me, and I knew something was coming up, and you could see she's got a smirk all the time, right? So when something like that is coming up, she's got a smirk. I knew it was going to be something, I'm going to say corny, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. The whole voice thing is a bit much. So that's hilarious. But hey, you know what? This is we're on Spotify right now. We're on LinkedIn right now, and so it's kind of cool. I thought that was a great intro. You treat it like a real show, Bailey. Great producing.
Shout out
Bailey,
Chelsea for that.
There you go, Chelsea. Shout out to her for it. Bailey, first episode of the year. Time to get started. Back in the saddle for us. You've got an amazing lineup for us down the road, like scheduled way out. So if you're trying to get into the podcast these days, Bailey's got a wait list now. Like, take a number.
Yeah.
9.
No, but I mean, before we get into, the sponsorship and all that good stuff, I wanted to share some exciting content that we have created around our special series with Matt Carlson that we did at the end of last year in season 1. So we created 5 articles that correlate to each of the episodes about a major corporation's Teams phone deployment. So they have some really awesome information. I'll drop all of those links down below. Just give us a read. Let us know what you think. And also, if you've missed any of the previous episodes or you want to rewatch them, you can find them, like Rick said, on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, or our website. So go check it out. But yeah, season 2, guys, this is awesome. So excited. Momentum is still sponsoring Everything Teams Phone Live, where we help businesses thrive with Microsoft Teams. So back to you guys.
All right. Well, there you go. Bailey. Thank you, Bailey. Appreciate that. I think the link to the article that we're going to talk about is down below in the notes or in the comments. So you can Bailey's going to post that for us, so you can go through this with us. And decide if we're right or wrong on some of these things. I think we've got a bunch of data that we put together from lots of resources. So it's not just us making stuff up in the wind. It is documented information, and we thought we'd talk about it because it is everything that we're experiencing right now as individuals and as an organization. We see it in the marketplace. We attend kind of the leadership conferences and stuff like that. So this is all very relevant to the new year. Brandon?
Yeah, and I think it's, even though our show focuses more on the Microsoft ecosystem with kind of Teams Phone as the center stage, I think these 7 topics that we're going to discuss, I think they all are going to play a role in the Teams Phone space in some shape or form. And even if our listeners are tuning in and they aren't part of that Teams or Microsoft ecosystem, I think these trends are still going to be relevant to any avenue that they're looking at to go expand their technology stack.
Yep. One thing about what Bailey said a moment ago, I thought that was kind of funny. You know, Matt Carlson, we did a 5-show series with him. And at the time, and he's gone now, so we could say this, at the time he's with Disney and walking us through, how a major deployment goes. And I thought that was really cool to break it into 5 different episodes because he gave so much really, really solid, hard-hitting, real-world data and information on how to do these things. So that was pretty cool. But now he's left Disney and he's over at Microsoft. So even more relevant now because he's, drank the Kool-Aid enough that he went to the Starship or whatever you want to call it. So he's over at Microsoft now. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and it was, he's getting a lot of press from us right now, so we might as well just amp it up a little further. He made a surprise appearance at our sales kickoff. Was that last week in kind of the Tampa, Florida area down in St. Petersburg? So it was awesome to actually do this whole 5-part series with him, kind of get to know him in a virtual setting, and it was just like he was, that good friend walking into a room. So even though he kind of made that surprise visit, it was like, oh man, there's my friend from,
5 shows.
Yeah.
From 5 shows.
Yeah.
We treat all our guests, to a first class sort of accommodation. So we basically helicoptered him from Tampa to St. Pete's. We'll have to ask him how the helicopter ride was on the way over. So that's pretty cool.
We borrowed Microsoft's helicopter.
Traffic was terrible. Anyway, okay, Brandon, let's dive into these 7 trends because there's some interesting stuff in here that I think we're just going to get sidetracked with and get excited about. So number 1, Brandon, big surprise, big surprise. AI is going to transform customer service agents or customer service and engagements. I mean, duh, right? Like, is there any more to say about that? Duh. Like, I think for those of you, what's interesting is, you travel to different parts of the country and engage with different people. And to some degree, some people are just not aware. They're not, this is not their industry. And the engagement that they've had is little to none with AI. AI is just a buzzword to them. There's not a real application assigned to it. So when I was actually visiting in Texas and I was explaining to some friends, I'm like, hey, try this. And they were astonished because they still use a phone, right? They just call. And so they were astonished at some of the things that I could show them that are deployed right now and working. And customer service is going to be heavily influenced by AI in a massive way, I think, in 2025. I think you're going to see more autonomous agents hit the market or hit the job market than you will real people. Now, I could be, that's just me saying that. That's not referencing any data. I'm just saying I know that we could probably go deploy 20 different agents right now in a customer service setting. Have we had all of our security stuff that we're working on completed and things like that? But I think you're going to see a lot of agents come online in the future this year. What do you think, Brandon?
I totally agree. And, to expand on it, and we can maybe I'll get the link in the chat below, or I'll get it to Bailey. This is a shameless plug on my part. I actually had put out this last weekend an article on LinkedIn about the whole AI chatbot bandwagon and kind of the reason companies need to jump on that bandwagon. And I know, I think 2024 was kind of the year of the buzzword, right? AI. And I think it kind of became a joke towards the end of the year. And I think there's a little bit of burnout from the buzzword. But I think it's because there's a lot of talk there was a lot of talk in 2024 and people were doing things. But I think to your point, Rick, 2025 is the year where I think that talk becomes action. And the article I put out goes quite a bit deeper than the article that we're referencing on our Momentum website.
Yeah, it really was. I think that's a great way to say it, though, because it was a bunch of talk in 24, and you're like, "What's the product? Like, what's the product? AI? What's the product?" And you've got the you get the reference like, oh, there's AI built into this application, built into that application, so there's AI doing something, But as a consumer, you were just like, I don't see it. Sorry. Like, I don't know what that's going to do for me. But now you're seeing customer service agents being deployed. You're seeing different uh, orchestrations of an army of agents, if you will. You're seeing that being deployed. I'm seeing that being deployed. And if you've ever wondered how well it works, we can reference some websites where you can go take a look at a website chatbot that is now, let's say, Audible, and just start talking to that chatbot. That's, again, Audible. It's just talking to a person, but it's a chatbot. The chatbot that was your father's chatbot, right? Just to let me type into something, right? That's no more, right? Everything is now very voice, activated. And Alexa taught us what voice commands were, right? I mean, you had Siri and all that good stuff, but really that was kind of that really didn't work like great, right? Didn't really do anything outside of its, kind of predefined scope. But now you've got this dynamic, let me go find something for you, let me present something to you, and now let me just talk to something based on data that I'm feeding this bot in a normal sort of language environment. And it's pretty dang cool.
And I think the other thing we're going to see this year is personalized chatbots, in the sense that, like you referenced, Alexa and Siri and even Google to a certain extent, where you can ask it to do something and there's an outcome, right? There's an action and you get a result. I think that's very important as we go into 2025. Don't let, as you're exploring setting up these AI agents, don't let the general scope of AI be the thing that scares you away, right? Make sure you understand, I want my AI to do X, Y, and Z, so that you actually get outcome out of that AI tool set. And then the piece from there is, and I think I've lost my train of thought where I was going with that.
Well, let me just say that you're exactly right though, Brandon, because there's the reason that you'd have, let's say, an army of chatbots, okay? Because you'd look at something and go, well, if it just handles everything, why do I need a bunch of them, right? I think what I'm starting to see now, and I'm working on a personal project, so from a learning perspective, what you're seeing is the multifunction bots. So if you're asking a bot to do, I'm going to be the Teams specialist, okay? So you're going to have it be the Teams phone specialist. You don't want that to also be the BroadSoft specialist, right? So for normal UC. So you want, instead of convoluting that whole sort of, kind of information stack, you separate it out. So now you got a BroadSoft agent, you got a Teams agent, and if you got a different platform like NetSapiens, these are phone platforms, everyone, then you've got an agent that's specific to the NetSapiens. And it's so that, because the more granular you can get with the knowledge base, the better the answers are going to be, right? So then you start to orchestrate that with a manager that says, oh, hey, you're looking for NetSapiens. Let me direct you to the NetSapiens bot. The NetSapiens bot goes and calculates the answer, formulates the answer, and then presents it to you.
Yeah. Yep. So that I'm glad you said that, because that got my train of thought back.
Figured it would.
In gear. And sorry, I've got brain fog because I'm fighting this cold. But the personalized aspects, I think there's two sides to this, right? There's what you're describing. There's the AI personas that are personalized to its function, and you orchestrate that maybe through some manager of some sort, or managers plural. But then there's the personalized side, in that I, as the user, as I'm interacting with those bots, it's going to start building a profile on me, and it's going to start remembering what we talked about, and it's going to keep that history as well. So now, as I come into an organization seeking support, humans maybe can remember why I called in the last time, if the notes are updated in a CRM, or if it's the same person I happen to speak to. But now I've got a bot working 24/7 that's personalized to me. So I reach in and I start talking to this bot, and this bot's like, oh, hey, last time we were talking about this, this, and this. Did I help you? Do you need more help with that? And it's going to continue to grow that profile against me. So it's, as scary as that seems, I think that's going to be the other thing we're going to see happen in 2025, is this really personalized environment of AI agents.
Let me. I think you're right. Let me. And I love that. I think that's interesting because there's some overarching questions I have in the space right now that I'll put to the audience a little bit. Number one, would you feel comfortable calling and talking to an AI agent? Okay, so do you feel like you're getting all the answers? And I'm going to give you some examples in just a minute, but do you feel comfortable doing that? Do you think they're going to do a better job than a human would? Number two, and then number three, do you think it's going to be? You think these bots are going to bypass the contact center? Because previously, when you're talking about an agent, you're thinking contact center. In the telecom space, you're thinking contact center. So my contention, I think, and I've talked to a bunch of my contact center colleagues, and I'm like, do you even need a contact center if you're actually getting the help that you need autonomously and all the stats are taken, all the history is taken? There's never a question whether it's in the CRM or not. It's in the CRM. The notes are there. It remembers it always, so it gets smarter and smarter. Could you imagine you're calling? Here's the example. You call your favorite restaurant, but you don't really call them. You just click on their website. You bing and your unique identifier of your web browser, your whatever, a pixel that's on you, whatever it may be, right? Your unique identifier identifies you as, oh, hey, Rick. And kind of a voice comes on and says, hey, Rick, thanks for calling thanks for calling, Pizza Hut back. Right. Are you looking to place an order again? Yeah. Last time you had the giant pepperoni with bacon. Is that something that you want to order again, Rick? And can I deliver it to your home address of, XYZ, and could you imagine though, the difference in interaction between I'm going to go, web 2.0, application mobile. Let me jump on DoorDash and find the restaurant I want to order. Right. Or do I just go push a button to Pizza Hut or something like that and go, hey, hey, Pizza Hut, hi, Rick, how's it going? Thanks for calling again. You ordered this last time. Do you want it again? Yep. Deliver the same thing to me. Thank you. Done.
Yeah. Two things there. Pizza Hut didn't sponsor us. And B, I travel a lot with Rick. Sorry, I'm taking this off topic for a second. I travel a lot with Rick, and I'm watching Bailey down in the green room to see if she's recognized this yet or not. And Bailey, you can jump on if you want. I've traveled with Rick a long time, right? Rick, you and I, we've known each other like 20 years. And one thing I've learned about Rick is his eyes are 10 times the size of his stomach. So he mentioned earlier the extra, extra large pepperoni pizza. And I started laughing there for a second because Rick would order that and he'd eat like half a slice. And he'd be like, I'm full. So that just cracked me up that you used that example.
There you go. Off topic, but yes, that's exactly true.
So there's two things I'm going to add to what you were talking about to bring us back onto track. I personally would prefer, this is just me, I would prefer to talk to as long as the AI agent, whether I'm chatting or talking verbally, as long as that AI agent is actually trained in and can give me actionable outcomes, I'm going to prefer to talk to that person because it's less emotionally draining on me when I know that, hey, I'm just talking to a system. It's not concerned about a lot of context. It's just going to go do what it needs to do to get it done. That's, I think, why voice assistants have become so popular. I can tell a voice assistant, hey, go do this, and it does it. Like if I asked you to turn a light on for me, you might ask me, well, why do you want the light on? I can tell my voice assistant to turn the light on, and there's no question as to why. But on the flip side, and this is also in that LinkedIn article that I put out, the two, there's more than two, but the two I'll call out is the only concerns that need to be taken into account, I think, or the limitations are AI could have a lack of emotional intelligence. So if I'm an upset customer, that AI agent may not key into that, and it may derail my perception of that service further as an upset customer. So again, back to designing that AI agent to know when it's time to escalate to a human. I think there's always going to be a need for a human in that context. And then there's the bias and the fairness around what AI is actually providing me. Is it accidentally hallucinating? And when I say accidentally, is it hallucinating and giving me some bias answer? Is it giving me an unfair or a fair answer? So those are kind of two areas that you should keep in the back of your mind as you look to, roll out AI chatbots or voice agents.
Yeah. So just to wrap up on this topic, I'm going to conclude. I'm going to concur with you on something. I think people that prefer self-service, right? They prefer self-service because they don't want the interaction, right? They don't want the personal. You're an extroverted introvert, Brandon, right? Like you don't mind the environment. You don't mind talking to people, and you're great at it and engaging and stuff like that. But you'd prefer to be, in front of your computer doing something on your own, right? I get I get some energy from being around people. Right. So I'm a, extrovert, and I love kind of the engagement with people. So even though I don't prefer the self-service, I am going to prefer the AI because I wouldn't call it less taxing, but it is just sort of, I can skip the niceties. I can skip the engagement that I normally have with people because I'm not going to call it exhausting, but it is like you do put forth some energy, right? When I can just go, hit the Pizza Hut thing and this thing answers and says, hey, do you want the same thing you had last time? I'll deliver right to your house again. Use the same credit card. Are we good? Perfect. Yes. Authorized. Done. Go. Right. And I'm like, holy cow, how amazing would that be? I didn't have to put my glasses on and go type stuff out and go choose my delivery and here's my credit card or whatever. Right. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. I just said it. And I think that's cool. So I'm excited about what 2025 has to show for customer service engagements with AI bots. Number 2, Brandon, industry consult. Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm going to end it by saying watch momentum, because we will be showing up in the space aggressively. Okay, now we can go on to 2.
All right. Yes, that's true. That's true. Okay, number 2. Industry consolidation will accelerate. I think that's going to be true. Like, I think from the financial market perspective, money's getting a bit cheaper, not that much, but a bit cheaper. So if you've got, the capital markets, or you think you're going to start to deliver, opportunity for people to go and acquire more and more. I think you saw T-Mobile acquired a rural coverage area. I think it was Metronet, Comcast a few weeks ago announced the acquisition of a company called Nitel bandwidth aggregation. What else? Boy, there was a few of them. Verizon was going to do. They did the Frontier. I think the announcement hit that they did the Frontier expansion, right? So what's interesting to me about this is I feel like number 2 is a lead into number 1, and the only reason I say that is because I do think that more and more organizations, telco organizations, are perfectly positioned to be the delivery mechanism for AI tools, whatever the AI tool may be, just AI tools, right? Whether it's customer service agents, whether it's like a staffing company, like the telecom companies are going to start to take on like the staffing company, where I'm going to build you some automation. I'm going to build you this. I'm going to build you that. Whether you're building it in Microsoft's, Azure OpenAI, or if you're building it in Copilot, right? Whatever those things may be, or you're building it, in other applications. We're testing a bunch of different applications right now, actually. But I think the more business customers you have, the reality is the more things you could sell them in the future, right? And I look at that and I go, I think we're positioned really well to go deliver on net new products that we didn't have as telcos before. And I'm really excited to see the mergers and acquisitions, if you will, because I do think that the more, I mean, we're an acquisition machine, right? We they bought, G12, they bought, we bought Horizon. I think we're always on the hunt for additional strategic ads. And so the more customers you have, the better suited you're going to be, I think, to go deliver on new technology in the future.
Yeah. And I also think, again, I'm no market expert when it comes to this. So this is just a off the cuff opinion, because as we call out in our I'll call it our blog post here, that this is nothing new to the industry, right? Acquisitions, mergers, they all happen. But I think the acceleration of it is, like you said, it's driven by AI. And some of that, I think, is, at least from my perspective, sitting looking at what the market's doing, companies sometimes struggle to move fast enough to get the solutions they need. So what's the next option? Buy it.
Yeah, well, I think of it entirely different than that, right?
No, I know you do, but I'm giving you my perspective.
That's a great, that's a really good example. It's like, let's buy the technology that you need. I mean, right. Let's buy this because we can't move fast enough. So let's go buy the technology we need. But think about this, the amount of efficiencies that you gain, right, when you have redundancies. So any sort of acquisition, sometimes there's redundancies, and sometimes you gain efficiencies by by laying people off, right? I think so. I mean, if you look at Microsoft and Meta and every organization that you see, the large guys, they're all laying people off, right? So my guess, and I don't know this, but the more revenue you can bring on to your organization, whether it's through acquisition or organic, the more revenue you bring on, right? Particularly in an acquisition, the more efficiencies with AI now that you're going to be able to realize. Think about this. If you had an organization that had 5,000 support people, 3,000 support people, massive organization, 3,000 support people, and now you can go build autonomous agents that take on 50, 60% of your tier 1 tickets. Do you need those 3,000 agents anymore? Maybe you just need 1,000 of them, right? So you look at the acquisition strategy now, and I look at it and go, if you can go buy that top line revenue, the efficiencies that you're going to be able to gain in the next 3 years are going to be monstrous, like monstrous, because we're not talking just customer interactions here, right? We're talking about some accounting bots. We're talking about some service delivery bots. We're talking about, customer success bots. Like, there's a lot of very interesting things being deployed right now. And so you look at that, I'm like, well, just give me the top line revenue and I'll go make this thing efficient. Right. So I think even if the interest rates don't come down a ton, I think you can still see a lot of acquisition activity, because if I'm buying that top line revenue, I look at it and go, as an operator, I think I can go do really amazing things to go make it more efficient. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. My only opinion there is, I think companies that do embrace it, and they need to embrace it, I think there's still going to be a lot of value to making sure that you still have humanity tied to your business, in the sense that, I like we were talking about earlier, I'm a person who would prefer to talk to something that's automated and just get the job done. But I also want to know that there's a human there when I need it. And so companies, let's say they do make that reduction in the frontline support, they need to start considering, what does their business model look like when a human does need to be reached? Because if maybe the volume of people reaching out is maybe lower because AI is handling it, but you still want your personas, your human personas out there, to be that touch point for those customers that, you still want humanity tied to your business.
I think that's a great point. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're going to see that you've got to strike a balance between, personality and automation, right? You're going to have to strike a balance, because people are going to want, they're going to want that humanity. You're right. Good point. Great point. Number 3. Yeah, I think we'll wrap that one up. Number 3 is cloud consumption will ramp. I think that's a massive bullet point, because you're seeing it now. The data centers that are going in today, right? And I'm going to say consumption could be concerned. You can look at the Google Cloud, AWS, Azure. I think all those are going to massively increase, all because of AI. Again, number 1, right? It goes back to number 1, all because of the AI development that's going on and the money that's going into AI. I mean, that's what all the chips are going towards, right? Before, what were the data centers being like? Oh man, we're like building data centers for crypto mining, right? That was like, literally, that was like, crypto mining was the big thing. That's what, data center resources were like, man, that's burning so many CPUs or whatever, it's like, it needs this much gigawatts of power, whatever it may be. But now I think you're seeing consumption of those platforms rise significantly, because the AI sort of market is here, and it's like Web 3.0. Have we hit 3.0? Maybe it's Web 4.0. I don't even know what web we're on, but it's that all over. It's the internet all over again, just more refined and more sophisticated.
Well, I think, there's a lot of reasons why cloud consumption is going to ramp. It's largely around AI, and most services are moving to kind of this cloud first mentality. But I think it sounds like someone's Teams phone is ringing. He's old. That's funny. So as companies look to, be agile and rapid in deployment, it's, and Rick, this firsthand, it takes a lot of time to go deploy physical infrastructure. It takes a lot of time to sit down and procure that equipment. And like you said, as chips are going into, GPUs are going towards AI, it's lead times to get your own physical servers are taking weeks and weeks and months to get. So I think there's reasons companies just go, let's go to the cloud just because we need this faster than we can put it in our own data center. Some of that comes with a little extra cost maybe. But I also think this isn't meant to be a dig, but I think there's a new era of technologists hitting the market, and it's these maybe they're educated in software development, maybe the education system has shifted to kind of this cloud first education, like just go do it in Google, go do it in AWS. Here's how you do it. And so some of these legacy technology practices, it's not that they're not relevant. I think it's that as workers retire out and the new workers come in, there's preferences, right? So I think that's going to drive cloud consumption.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think we've got some firsthand knowledge with that.
Well,
But I think you're absolutely right about that. But if you even make this a bit more basic, you think, boy, the organizations like hospitals, states, counties, big sort of legacy infrastructure, heavy infrastructure legacy organizations, they're going to migrate to the cloud. I mean, so they're the last ones hanging on to things, right? They're still, and I'm going to use telecom specific here. They're still hanging on to their Cisco as an example, right? Their call manager and all that stuff you're going to see, I think, start to fade away and be migrated to the cloud. And it'll be into it'll be like the WebEx cloud, it'll be Zoom, it'll be Teams, and all to support, right? All to support is if you need the data and you need the data to be captured. Where before you had phone calls and you're like, okay, I have some phone calls recorded, or I've got, these customer calls recorded. Now you're going to need all your recordings. And why would you need all your recordings? Brandon, why don't you tell me why we need everything? Like we need all that voice data. Why would we need all that voice data?
I don't know if that's a lead in, but man, you can do a lot with data, right? Data is what? Power, knowledge. It's all those things, right? So there's compliance reasons, obviously, but there could be many other reasons why you want all of that data.
Well, in the past I would go, and this is me being a bit of a naysayer. It's like, okay, great. I can go collect all this data. What the hell do I do with it? Right? Like, what am I going to do with all this data? I don't have to figure out what to do with this data because I can ask AI now, what can I do with all this data? And AI is going to go, you should consider moving your Tuesday meetings to Thursday because Tuesdays are a very high customer service day. You should, focus more on customer service that day than having an internal meeting. So let's move those to Thursday. Right? So you're going to be able to make real business decisions around having that discussion and capturing that discussion, whether it be collaboration or PSTN phone calls. You're going to be able to make business decisions that actually impact your business because guess what? You didn't think about it. You didn't go, should I see all these calls on Tuesday? No one's going to make that correlation, but AI will make that correlation for you.
Yeah. And then back to kind of the cloud consumption, my last thought on that is, you think about the expense to maintain your own on-prem equipment, whether it's your Cisco's, your Avayas, or your servers or whatever that companies are looking to shift. How many customers, Rick, do you and I talk to day in and day out that the story is, we just don't want to have to maintain it anymore? It's time consuming. We're sick of being up at 3 a.m. supporting it. They just want to push that off to the provider side to say, you deal with the maintenance, you deal with how you recover from disasters, and hopefully they're designing around that cloud practice. But my point being is, kind of goes back to AI's bringing in cost reduction. How much does moving to the cloud bring in cost reduction? While cloud costs maybe look higher on paper, does it allow you to clean up costs somewhere else to offset that cloud consumption?
That's when you need to look at the line items, right? It's not just the apple to the apple sort of line item, right? You need to take a look at what's actually needed to support that piece of it. And then you go, oh, it makes sense now. That's a great lead in though to number 4, because I think telecom companies are going to start to offer more and more cybersecurity services. And that's kind of your specialty in there too, Brandon.
Yeah, this one doesn't really surprise me because I think, every time you turn around and you open your news feed, you see data breach, data breach, data breach, right? It's all over the place. It's now it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think a lot of companies are I think it goes back to, the whole thing that we hear customers saying, we don't want to manage this anymore. They're just looking for that strategic technology partner to come in and manage their solution, their portfolio or suite of services. And even as momentum, we see that, right? We sell global circuits, we sell global internet. Customers are saying, hey, why won't you sell us a managed firewall solution or a managed SASE solution? I think telecoms need to embrace it because customers are demanding it, right? And there's money to be had in it.
Well, you're the perfect partner, right? You're the infrastructure partner, right? Whether you're doing voice and or networking or data, you're the perfect infrastructure partner to be able to take this on. And you're right. I mean, the amount of sort of security risks out there gets greater and greater every year. And if you're a lawyer and have a law firm or a doctor, or, you just want to go do your job and you want the technology to be as clean and simple as it can be to allow you to do the lawyering that you want to do. Right. And that's really it. Like having to, running a business is difficult, and having to go deal with sort of, IT, sort of emergency things like that is a real drag on resources, a real drag on leadership. It's like just upfront, pay for it upfront, get it delivered by an organization that you trust and know, because you're providing that infrastructure, whether that's internet or voice services, and you've got something taken care of, and you can just kind of wipe your hands of that and go, I'm paying for you to take care of it because I'm busy doing my lawyering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it obviously makes sense if you're already the telco that's managing the equipment, you've already got full visibility into that. Why not layer on the next level of security as a service?
Well, we're doing it here, right? We're bringing on Cato as an example, right? And that's to go deliver amazing SASE services.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely going to see more and more telcos deliver on cybersecurity services. I also think they're going to sell AI too, but we'll stick with cybersecurity for now. Number 6, Brandon, what's that one?
I think we're on number 5, right? The rise of the self-service customer experience. I think that kind of just ties right back into number 1, right? The ability to, as a consumer, I call in and I can serve off of those AI and automated processes to get whatever that workflow is accomplished. And I think that, that's not just in the support side, right? That's in the sales life cycle, right? It's, why do I have to call in, and again, you said it earlier, I'm like an extroverted introvert. I don't really want to talk to a human if I don't have to. It's like when I want to go buy a new car, I dread watching the sales guy walking out the parking lot towards me, because I'm like, I'll decide what I want, then I'll talk to you. And so I love the idea of self-service. Like I just want to go, I don't want to be bothered with, it's back to my example of, hey, Rick, can you turn the light on? And you saying, well, tell me why. And I try to tell you why. And you're like, no, but really why? And I don't like that. I don't enjoy that. I just want to get the job done. And so the rise of this self-service, I think AI is going to accelerate it, in that, we all are very familiar with the Amazon shopping experience, the one-click buy, the, instant gratification. And I think in the telco industry and the telecom industry, we have to start looking to shift towards that, instead of going through these, big, heavy contract lifts. We need to start offering hey, customer, here's what we have to offer. Take it or leave it.
Well, it's the SaaS model, right? Like if we need to start acting, the telecom business needs to start acting like a SaaS. Like I'll give you an example. You take HubSpot as an example, a CRM, right? It's like, okay, you pop into HubSpot, you get your free trial. It doesn't do everything you want it to do. You're like, let me get a couple more users here, and let me open up the feature set, and off we go. And then let me just, now all of a sudden, now we're ready. Let's just move everything over, right? It's that whole buying as you need it, buying when you want it, buying the way that you want want it to be bought. Now, if you want to call somebody and talk to somebody on the phone, great. You could probably do that. But you also have the option to go make it simple. Let me just sign up right online. Let me do my thing, mess around with it. And then off I go. Self-service, I think, is going to change telecom very quickly, because you're going to see things like, and I experienced this in London. Actually, I told you about this. I think I gave a shout out to the leadership at Vodafone, because we were at a leadership conference, and there was some Vodafone guys in there that were part of the leadership for their bandwidth network. And I was like, I'm in my hotel, and I was like, I remember the last time I was in London, I'm like, I always have a problem with my Verizon wireless in London. Like, it's like you get caught between the buildings. It's not that great, the coverage. I'm like, let me go get an eSIM from Vodafone. And I put it on my cell phone, and I had such a great experience. It's like, boom, 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 done. And my eSIM was on, network was on Vodafone now, and I could make calls and I could do everything I needed to do. And I had high-speed internet. I used my map everywhere, because sometimes when you're on, on my Verizon, it didn't work as great, right? Again, when you're navigating in London, as an example. But when I had my Vodafone sort of, eSIM, man, awesome. I didn't talk to anybody. It's not a big, long contract. I basically said, I need, service for 30 days, gave me service for 30 days. I'm like, give me like 20 megs or whatever it is, 20 gigs or megs, whatever, for download. And off I went. It was so good and such an easy experience. Ready for this? This is how much money they got out of me. I paid like $35 for that 1 month for that 20 gigs of bandwidth. Guess what I did? I had my iPad with me, and I'm like, I'm not going to bother tethering or waiting to be on Wi-Fi. Let me go add $35 for this month to my iPad. So I spent $70 with Vodafone as a passerby for a week in London. How dope is that? Like, that was really cool. Like, from a margin perspective, that's like 100% margin. That's like literally, that's probably 99.999% margin. They just made the buying process self-service and easy. Didn't take any people to write me a contract. Didn't have to go into a store to activate anything. It was just like that. It was great.
And I think the mobile industry, they've had that self-service for years, right? I think to the point of our article, I think especially the larger telcos, I think we'll start to see that adoption where buying circuits becomes more automated, self-service. Buying things like Teams phone service becomes fully automated, where you don't have to go through this lengthy, hey, book a meeting with me and let me try to sell this to you. So yeah.
All right. Number 6, high performance internet will come to rural communities. I've got a great little story for this one.
I think it's already there, personally.
It is. You're right.
Yeah, I think it'll continue to improve in the broadband sector, like the cable cos. They'll continue to build out their infrastructure. But I think with the huge investment that's been made in 5G and now companies like Starlink doing satellite service, I have friends back in Montana that they live in isolated pockets in communities that have no cable, no DSL, no nothing. And Starlink was the instant game changer for them. And that's been, 2-3 years ago now. Yeah, no, you're right. It's interesting. The 5G, I think, is going to be fantastic. And that's good. We've got number 7 about 5G, but let me just say, the capabilities of 5G are pretty amazing, right? Because you're seeing these boxes that have, multiple SIMs in there for 5G, multiple carriers in there for 5G. You're seeing sort of a lot of different applications come out with 5G and the high speed data. You're capable of doing anything you need to do on a 5G network. And what I love about this is, I've got 2 little stories, and I'm going to tell one about Leo and one about 5G. I've got Ring doorbells, and I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona right now. So, we spend half a year here and half a year in Seattle. I remember coming back here for the second year, and I was like, oh man, I've got to go get a 5G box because my internet was kind of a bit sketchy. Right now, in that time, I think Charter ended up putting in fiber to the home, which was really cool. So it got instantly upgraded, but my Verizon mobile didn't work as well. And so I was like, oh no, let me go get a 5G hotspot as well. Well, I was going to do that, but Verizon upgraded. So now I don't have any problems at all. So I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. But I'm on my Ring doorbell network, the little neighbors application where you see like everybody's like, hey, Ring doorbells, hey neighbor, do you have this? Hey neighbor.
And someone was complaining about the cable co that's here. So I won't say them. I previously did, but I won't say who they are. Someone was complaining about their internet. And someone said, man, just go down to Verizon, get a 5G. It's so fast. It's so amazing. Never goes down. It's just spectacular. And I'm like, it is. It's pretty darn spectacular. So having that in some of these rural communities, because you can, these, the rural telcos and all the big telcos are starting to just put their 5G everywhere. You're going to see it.
I also have a prediction that I think it's also going to put pressure on those local cable cos to reduce their costs. And the example I'll give is I have family up in the panhandle of Idaho, so rural, but not like middle of nowhere rural. And they're in a community that they have options for DSL cable and now 5G. They opted to go with T-Mobile's 5G because speed test wise, much, much faster for a price point, no data cap, no price point, or a lower price point, like 30 or 40% less than the cable co.
It's huge.
And they've had it for, I think 2.5 years now. And the reliability, when was the last time, besides you're in a pocket of no service, when was the last time you noticed you didn't have 5G service or LTE service on your cell phone? I mean, it's like, it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it can't, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I don't travel like on empty roads but you're right. The coverage is very, very good. And the service is very good. Real quick on Starlink though, interestingly enough, my son 2 years ago entered the Coast Guard and went on a ship, this Polar Star, went to Antarctica to go break ice. As a nervous father, I'm like, you're on a boat in the ocean. Dang, that's scary for me. I'm your dad. He's 19-year-old son. I go and I buy him this massive sort of Aqua GPS, like $700 GPS that's got global texting. Matter of fact, Garmin is still charging me. I forgot to cancel it. Still $50 a month. Global texting on this thing. Okay. And I'm like, dude, anything happens, you hop on that lifeboat and you're like, got global texting right there. Like, let's get everybody out there, And so I'm like, and text me, just use it to text me. Like, I just want to stay in touch with you while you're gone for 5 months, whatever it was. Right. So use it to text me. Calls me up on his cell phone on WhatsApp because they've got Starlink on the ship. And you could, that's funny because they would have service, right? And you could, when the low orbits when the satellites are orbiting, because you've got service. And then you have a pocket of 5 minutes when you'd have a block, there's no service. And then the other satellite kicks over or whatever it is. And now you've got the service back. But he was calling me on WhatsApp all the time. I'm like, this is fantastic. What did I get him a $7 GPS for with global texting that I still haven't canceled $1,000 later?
And now let me tell you, I shouldn't say just, like maybe a month ago, signed up for, I'm on T-Mobile service. And they will be, I think, the first carrier to offer texting globally when you're outside of your cell service. Their partnership is with Starlink. I'm part of that beta program. And so we're moving into an era. This is just another prediction, but we're moving into an era where the mobile carriers are going to go partner with the likes of Starlink to ensure that your coverage is seamless around the globe. That won't happen in 2025 necessarily, but I'm already sitting here on a beta program going, hey, I can already leave my T-Mobile service area, connect to Starlink. Not that I know I'm connected to Starlink, and I can text.
Well, that's that direct to mobile, right? Starlink has announced their direct to mobile calling, right? Yep. So it's like there's direct to mobile messaging right now. You can just like if everybody, let me just say what direct to mobile is really quickly. If you ever go to a website and you're like, hey, press yes for to get notifications, right? Now you're maybe not putting in your email, you're not putting in your cell phone. You're like, how the hell are they going to notify me? Well, they're going to notify you on your mobile notifications, right? You're going to get your device. They're sending it right to the device. So that's direct to mobile notifications. That's direct to mobile messaging, right? So there's going to be direct to mobile calling. And so that's interesting. The wireless carriers. Yeah, that's pretty darn interesting. I'll just roll into number 7, because we're talking about it right now. I mean, 5G is going to take center stage. I think you're going to see a lot more 5G networks being built, and maybe not for I think data. It's interesting because you talked to our sales organization as an example, you'll see that data pipes are getting bigger for customers. Their customers are requiring more and more data. But what you're also seeing is take the SMB. The SMB is not going to need, a gig of, internet at their, 10-man retail location, right? They're just not, right? They're going to, if you had a 100 meg, wireless connection, 5G connection, you're solid. Like you're great. Go run your phone, your POS, your internet, whatever, everything that you can run on that, you can run on that thing. And I think you're going to see the redundancy of those things, like having different SIM cards or eSIMs in for different carriers, so that you've got that sort of redundancy and scalability. Because in the old days, you had two different pipes here. You got one this and let me fill over here, and I think you're just going to see the merging of, hey, I've got an AT&T 5G and I've got a Verizon 5G, and it's going to give me 250 megs of bandwidth, and it's costing me like $250 or $300, and it's like I'm great redundancy, high speed, everything I could possibly use. So I think 5G is going to be for that SMB space. I think 5G is going to be pretty amazing. Maybe even in the consumer space when it comes to IoT, right? It's like everything's going to be on a 5G eSIM card. It's like, let me stick my refrigerator on it so they can tell me what food I need. That's a bit too far-fetched for me. I'm not that much of a technologist or geek. Sorry, no offense to anyone. But I'm not going to do it. But that seems pretty interesting. There's a lot of interesting applications that you would use 5G for, but I think it's going to take center stage for that market.
I have another, I'm going to call it a prediction, since this seems to be our prediction episode around 5G in the consumer space. And it's just something I'm on Comcast home internet at home, just a residential service. And they've late last year, I want to say November timeframe, started really pushing internet redundancy with their 5G backup. So, Comcast obviously has their MVNO. I assume that's what they're using as their backup. I could be wrong.
Right? Is it T-Mobile, I think?
No, it's Verizon.
Okay.
On their MVNO, it's Verizon. But I don't know if that's what they're using or if they're using T-Mobile. I haven't looked into it. They're wanting to charge me an extra $7 a month to upgrade to that service where I have my cable internet connection, but then there's this always on 5G connection in the modem. So that if the cable goes down, I roll over to 5G. So my prediction is, I think we see the cable cos make that, push and drive for that to be a standard offer. And I don't know, I'm not necessarily saying 2025 for this next prediction, but I think 5G taking center stage is going to mean that there's coming a day when 5G will be part of your internet package. You will have some backup mechanism, whether it's I buy T-Mobile 5G and now they've partnered with Verizon, or I'm buying Comcast and they've got their 5G. But I think that also becomes a new normal.
Well, let's go back real quick to number 2. I'm going to go back to number 2 because if you now having gone through this whole list and talked it out with you, think about why T-Mobile bought MetroNet. Right. Kind of a provider of fiber to the home, right? Kind of a cable co, if you will, right? Like MetroNet's kind of a cable company. Like maybe they're not a TV cable company, but they look and smell just like a fiber, a cable company. So are we looking at a mega merger, like a Verizon buying Comcast, a T-Mobile buying Comcast? Because now, if you think about that combined network, that 5G coverage now gets like really dense. I was going to say stupid dense, but that coverage now gets very dense, right? And from a wireless perspective, gives you offloads, right? Mm-hmm. So now, right, if I got all this traffic on my 5G network, now I can offload some of it onto fiber. So I think that's interesting. That mega merger, maybe you do see another mega merger, cable co with mobile providers, seems to be like that's going to be a really let me go look at this. T-Mobile, KKR, so that's MetroNet, yeah. Is there any other cable cos for Verizon and Frontier? That's old telco stuff. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to be disparaging and all like that. It is just old telco stuff. But that T-Mobile and US, there it is. Acquisition of US Cellular. Duh. So you're seeing that. That's exactly the play then. So mega mergers, I think, on the rise in 2025. You're going to see that cable co or that mobile provider gobbling up a cable co. Maybe not a Comcast, but certainly you're looking at a Charter or a Spectrum or some of those other sort of, I'm not going to call them tier 2, but some of those other large organizations that are cable cos. Maybe you see them get gobbled up by a mobile provider.
Yeah, and then the last piece on my comment is, and this is like hot off the press, and I don't know all the details yet, but I see that SpaceX is now announcing that they're going to offer backup internet for around that $10 a month subscription. So there's even that, right? As again, the new normal, right? So maybe I'm moving my home internet to 5G, and Starlink becomes my backup internet. It's pretty interesting where we're headed in the space of wireless data.
Literally in the space of wireless data. Hey, you did it. I didn't do it. I just called it out. You did it.
I didn't catch it though.
All right. Well, listen, we've gone through all of them. It's an exciting time to be in the telco space in 2025. Our podcast really revolves around Microsoft Teams. There's a lot happening at Microsoft, obviously with the, AI first approach. You're seeing a lot going on there. It's pretty darn exciting to be part of that. I do feel like we're at the forefront of some of this stuff. We're not the bleeding edge tech companies, but we're certainly, as we work with Microsoft a ton, riding that efficiency sort of wave into organizations going, hey, this is amazing. We can create some real efficiencies for organizations. You've got to be on a collaboration platform. You've got to be on one of the 3 big collaboration platforms, or some services that we'd be launching if you still are hanging on to your Cisco, but need to figure out how to pull that data down and understand that data, be able to analyze that data, record that data. We may have something for you coming in 2025. Brandon, what do you think? Don't say what it is, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking forward to what we're calling season 2 now of Everything Teams Phone Live, because I think we're going to have a lot of great guests. We're going to have a lot of awesome topics that obviously talk and maybe center around AI, but we will then take all of that and tie it into how that becomes your collaboration ecosystem, how we tie it all together so your business process flows and you get the business outcomes that you're looking to get. So yeah,
there you go.
That's a wrap.
Bailey, bring it back to us. Bailey, come bring it on out.